How did my own nephew decide my money was his, while I was still recovering in a private clinic? Why did my family act like my credit card was a family tool, not my boundary? What happened next made them realize I was quiet, not powerless. My name is Stephen Calder. I am 56 years old. I have never been the loud one in my family. I work in contracts and property maintenance. I manage details. I show up when something breaks. I pay bills on time. I answer calls, even when I should not. 2 weeks ago, I was in a private clinic. I was there because my doctor told me my body needed quiet time. I had been pushing myself for too long. I was not in danger. But I was worn down. My blood pressure was high. My sleep was broken. My hands shook when I tried to write. I agreed to the clinic because I wanted to fix the problem before it got worse. The clinic was clean and calm. The hallways smelled like soap and warm tea. The lights were soft. The staff spoke in low voices. They moved like they had done this 1,000 times, and they did not rush. In my room, there was a small table, a chair, and a window that looked over a line of winter trees. I spent most of my time resting, walking short laps, and learning how to slow my mind down. I did not tell many people where I was. I told my sister, Marla, because she is family and because she usually insists on knowing everything. I also told her I needed space. I said I would not be available for money questions or errands. She said she understood. She also said she would keep it quiet. On the 4th day, the clinic finally felt like it was working. My breathing was steadier. I could read a full page without losing focus. I was sitting in the chair by the window with a cup of weak coffee. I had a notebook on my lap. I was writing down the simple routines the therapist gave me. Eat at set times, walk after meals, turn off the phone at night, no stressful calls. Then my phone started to vibrate. At first I ignored it. The clinic encouraged me to limit calls. I had set most numbers to silent. Only a few close contacts could break through. The vibration kept coming in short bursts. I looked down and saw my nephew's name. Tyler is 24. He is my sister's son. He is energetic. He is also used to people solving his problems. In our family, Tyler is treated like a special project. People say he is still finding his path. People excuse him when he crosses lines. I have watched that pattern for years. I did not want to answer. I knew how Tyler calls sound. He does not start with a greeting. He starts with a need. Still, I picked up because my mind went to emergencies first. I thought maybe something had happened, maybe he needed real help. The moment the call connected, he spoke fast. He said they were planning a large party the next day. He said it was going to be big. He said people were already invited. He said they needed my credit card details to cover a deposit and supplies. He did not ask if I was feeling better. He did not ask why I was in the clinic. He did not ask if this was a good time. He spoke like my role was already decided. I listened without interrupting. I have learned that people reveal more when you let them fill the space. He kept talking. He explained it was a family thing. He said it would look bad if it fell apart. He said the money would come back to me later. He said I always help, so this should not be an issue. When he finally paused, I told him I could not do that. I said I was in a clinic and my finances were not a group project. I said if they wanted a party, they could plan it within their own budget. I offered a simple option. I said they could make it smaller, or delay it, or ask guests to bring something. Tyler did not accept any of that. He raised his voice. He said I was making everything difficult. He said I was being selfish. He said I was acting like I was better than them because I had money. He said I had no reason to say no because I always say yes to family. I kept my voice even. I told him I understood he was stressed. I said my answer was still no. I said I was recovering and I would not share card details over the phone. I repeated that he could plan an event he could afford. He pushed harder. He said the family needed me to be generous. He said people were counting on it. He said Marla had already told him I would help. He said it was too late to change the plan. That line landed in a strange way. It was not anger, it was clarity. I realized my sister had spoken for me again. I realized my absence made them bold. I realized they were treating my recovery like a gap they could fill with their own choices. Tyler then said something that cut through any remaining doubt. He said if I refused, I should consider myself a stranger to the family. He said family helps family, and I was failing the test. He said he would tell everyone I turned my back on them. For a moment, I looked at the window and the trees. I heard the soft hum of the clinic heating system. I felt the weight of the phone in my hand. The contrast was sharp. In the clinic, people worked to lower stress. On the phone, my nephew tried to create stress on purpose to control me. I told Tyler I heard him. I said I was sorry he felt that way. I said my answer was final. Then I ended the call. Right after I hung up, the phone vibrated again. Tyler called back. Then again, then again. Messages started to arrive in quick lines. I did not open them. I knew I did not need to. The pattern was already clear. I blocked his number. Blocking felt like a simple action, but it changed the air in my chest. I did not feel joy. I felt relief. I also felt the quiet shock of how long it took me to do something so basic. Within a minute, my sister's name lit up on the screen. Marla called. I did not answer. She called again. Then she sent a message. I did not open it. I could guess the angle. She would say Tyler was emotional. She would say he did not mean it. She would say I should not take it personally. Then she would circle back to the money. I put the phone face down on the table. I tried to go back to my notebook. I looked at the lines I had written about routines and boundaries. The words felt less like advice and more like a challenge. I realized my problem was not only work stress. Part of my stress was family access. They had direct entry to my time, my money, and my attention. They used guilt like a tool. I sat still for a few minutes and let my heart rate settle. My hands were steady, but my mind was sharp in a new way. I started thinking in practical steps, the way I do when a roof leaks or a tenant violates a lease. You do not argue feelings, you document facts, you set terms, you follow the process. A nurse knocked and stepped into the room with a small tray. Her name tag said Nina Patel. She had checked on me each day. She was friendly but direct. She always explained what she was doing before she did it. I respected that. She placed the tray down and looked at my face. She asked if I was okay. I told her I was fine. She asked if the calls were upsetting me. I told her they were family calls. I said there was pressure about money. I tried to keep it light, like it was normal. Nina did not react like it was normal. She asked if family members were trying to get access to my information. She asked if anyone was asking the clinic staff questions about me. She said it happens more than people think. She said families sometimes confuse concern with control. I told her my sister knew I was here. I said my nephew wanted my credit card details for a party. I said I refused. I said he reacted badly. I did not add extra emotion. I did not need to. The facts were enough. Nina nodded once. She said the clinic could restrict information sharing. She said they could put a note on my file to confirm that staff should not share details with anyone unless I approved it. She said it was my right. She said recovery works better when people can rest without outside pressure. I told her I wanted that note added. I said I would approve one emergency contact only, and even that would be limited. Nina said she understood and would handle it. After she left, I stared at the closed door for a moment. That simple, professional response hit me hard. A nurse I had known for a few days took my boundary seriously without debate. My own family argued with it like it was a personal attack. I picked up my phone again. I did not open Marla's message. Instead, I went into my calendar. I created a reminder for the day I was supposed to be discharged. I added a second reminder 2 days earlier. I labeled it in plain words, review finances and access. Then I made a third reminder for the day after discharge, home check and inventory. I opened a notes app and wrote down what happened today. I wrote the time of Tyler's call. I wrote the demand. I wrote my refusal. I wrote the threat. I wrote that I blocked him. I wrote the follow-up calls from Marla. I was not trying to build a case in that moment. I was trying to keep myself from being pulled into the old fog. When people pressure you, your memory becomes soft. You start doubting your own sense of events. Writing it down keeps the facts firm. That afternoon, I took a short walk down the hallway. The clinic had a quiet lounge with books and puzzles. I sat in a corner chair. I watched other patients speak with visitors. Some conversations were warm, some looked tense. I realized I was not the only person learning how to protect their peace. When I returned to my room, the phone showed more missed calls. Tyler tried from another number. I blocked that too. Then a message arrived from my Aunt Renee. I did not open it. I could see the first few words in the preview. She was asking what was going on and saying the family was confused. I put the phone back down. I did not feel confused. I felt awake. That evening, I ate dinner in the small dining area and kept to myself. I listened to the quiet clink of plates. I watched the staff move calmly from table to table. I thought about how my family would frame this. They would say I was being cold. They would say I was being dramatic because I was in a clinic. They would say I was abandoning them over something small, but it was not small. It was a pattern. The party was just the excuse. The real issue was ownership. They acted like my resources belonged to the group. They acted like I existed to smooth over their choices. Back in my room, I sat at the desk and opened my notebook again. I wrote a single sentence under my routine list. I wrote that recovery includes boundaries. I did not decorate it. I did not add a speech. I just wrote it like a rule. Then I turned the phone to silent. I placed it in the drawer. I lay down and focused on breathing, like the therapist taught me. Before I fell asleep, one thought stayed with me. If my nephew could threaten to erase me from the family over a credit card, then the family bond was already being used as leverage. And if they could use it, then I could stop respecting it as a weapon. I did not plan anything that night. I did not dream of getting even. I only decided one thing. When I left the clinic, I would return home as myself, calm, observant, methodical, and I would not allow anyone to treat my life like their budget again. The next morning, I woke up with the same quiet feeling. Not anger, not sadness, just a steady awareness. Tyler's call was not a one-time mistake. It was a clean example of a pattern I had helped create by staying available. In the clinic, time moves slowly. That makes memories come up in a strange way. You do not scroll and distract yourself. You sit, you breathe, then you remember things you pushed aside for years. I thought back to when Tyler was a child. He was loud even then. He would run into the room and demand attention. My sister would laugh and say he had spirit. If he knocked something over, she would call it an accident and move on fast. If he complained, people rushed to fix it. He learned early that pressure works. Marla and I grew up in a house where money was always tight. Our parents did their best, but they worried a lot. When I got my first steady job, I felt proud. I also felt responsible. I started helping without being asked. I paid for small repairs at my parents' place. I covered a few bills when things got rough. Nobody forced me. I did it because I wanted to be useful. The problem was that useful became my identity. In our family, I was not the fun one. I was not the storyteller. I was the one who handled problems. When a car broke down, I showed up with tools. When a fridge stopped working, I figured it out. When someone missed a payment, I quietly covered it and told them they could pay me back later. At first, people thanked me. They said I was dependable. They said they did not know what they would do without me. Then, slowly, the tone changed. Gratitude turned into expectation. The thank you messages got shorter. The return payments came later, or not at all. The requests started coming with timelines and pressure, like I worked for them. Years ago, after Marla's marriage hit a rough patch, she called me late at night. She said she needed help with rent for a month. She said it was temporary. I transferred the money. A month later, it happened again. She said Tyler needed new school supplies. Then she said her car insurance was due. Every time, she promised it would be the last time for a while. I told myself it was family. I told myself it was only money. I told myself I could handle it. I was earning enough, and I lived simply. I did not spend much on myself. I did not travel. I did not chase status. I worked, saved, and kept my life quiet. That quiet life also made people underestimate me. In family gatherings, Tyler would be on his phone. Marla would be talking about plans and events. Renee would be organizing who brings what. I would be in the corner helping with the grill, fixing a chair, or cleaning up after. People did not ask what I wanted. They asked what I could do. I remember one holiday dinner at my sister's place. Tyler was already an adult. He came in late, loud, full of energy, and he started telling people what the night should be like. He wanted music, extra food, and a bigger gathering. Marla said it sounded exciting. Then she looked at me and asked if I could cover the extra groceries since I did not have kids to buy gifts for. She said it like it was obvious. I said yes that time. I did not want to create tension at the table. I noticed how quickly the conversation moved on. Once I agreed, it was like my role had been confirmed, and that was all they needed. Over time, Tyler started treating me like a background resource. If he wanted a new phone, he would complain to Marla, and she would call me with a tired voice. She would say she was stressed. She would say she did not want Tyler to struggle. She would say the family needed to support him while he built his future. If I hesitated, she would say I was the only one who could help. I did not only give money, I gave time. When Tyler moved apartments, he expected me to bring my truck. When he missed a deadline for paperwork, he expected me to make calls. When he needed a reference for a job, he expected me to vouch for him. He rarely said thank you directly. He would say something quick and then ask for the next thing. I told myself he was young. I told myself he would grow up. I kept waiting for a change that did not come. At work, I was the opposite of how my family saw me. I manage contracts and maintenance for several small properties. I know how to read a lease. I know how to track costs. I know how to spot risks early. I am not flashy, but I am thorough. People hire me because I solve problems and keep things stable. My family did not care about that. Stability is invisible until it is gone. They only noticed stability as a platform for their plans. The clinic therapist asked me once what my stress triggers were. I surprised myself by saying it was not only work. I said it was family calls. I said I felt like I could never fully rest because someone might need something. I said my phone felt like an alarm, not a tool. That same day, while I was sitting in the clinic lounge, a message came through from a cousin I rarely talk to. She sent me a screenshot from the family group chat. She said she thought I should see it. I did not respond right away. I waited until I was alone in my room. Then I opened it. The chat was active. People were excited. Renee was writing in long lines, telling everyone to show up and bring friends. Tyler was writing in short bursts, confident and loud. Marla was backing him up, saying it would be a great night and that the family deserved it after a hard year. Then I saw my name mentioned. It was not a question. It was framed as a fact. Marla was telling people I would take care of the main costs. Tyler was acting like it was already confirmed. Other relatives were reacting with cheers and approval, like this was normal. Reading it made my face feel warm. Not because I felt ashamed, but because I saw how public it was. They were spending my money in front of everyone. They were using social pressure as a tool. If I objected in the chat, I would look like the problem. If I stayed silent, the story would harden into truth. I did not reply. I did not correct them in that space. I knew the group chat was not where truth mattered. It was where image mattered. Instead, I saved the screenshot. I named it with the date in my phone folder. Then I put the phone down and took 3 slow breaths. That afternoon, Marla finally got through on a call from a number I did not recognize. I answered because I did not want the clinic staff dealing with her if she kept trying. Her voice was soft at first. She asked how I was. She said she was worried. I thanked her and said I was stable. I said the clinic was helping. I kept my words short, because I knew where it would go. She shifted quickly. She said Tyler told her I blocked him. She said that was extreme. She said he was only trying to organize something nice for the family. She said I took it the wrong way. I told her I did not take it the wrong way. I told her Tyler asked for my card details and threatened me when I refused. I told her that was not acceptable. Marla said Tyler was emotional. She said he felt rejected. She said families should not block each other over a misunderstanding. She said I should talk to him and smooth it over. Then she said the party was already planned and people were counting on it. I told her I was not responsible for plans I did not approve. I told her she should not speak for me. I said my answer was no. Her tone changed. She became sharper. She said I was making everyone uncomfortable. She said I was being difficult at the worst time. She said I had always been serious, and people were tired of it. She said I needed to think about what kind of uncle I wanted to be. I listened and waited. I did not interrupt. I wanted to hear the full shape of her thinking. She kept going. She said I lived alone, so I did not understand family needs. She said I had no one depending on me, so I did not feel pressure like she did. She said Tyler was the future, and I was supposed to support that future. That was another clear moment. She was describing my life like it had less value because it was quiet. She was also describing my money like it had a purpose outside of me. I told her my quiet life was not an invitation for people to use me. I told her my recovery mattered. I told her if the family wanted to celebrate, they could do it without my card. She paused, then asked what I expected them to do. She said it was too late. I told her they should be honest with guests and scale down. I said they should stop making promises using my name. Marla then said something that stayed with me. She said if I kept acting like this, people would stop including me. She said nobody likes conflict. She said I should ask myself if being right was worth being alone. I did not raise my voice. I told her I understood what she was saying. I told her I would not buy belonging with my wallet. Then I ended the call. After that, I noticed a physical change in my body. My shoulders dropped. My jaw relaxed. It felt like I had been holding a weight for years and finally set it down. That evening, the clinic case manager checked on me again. She asked if the family calls continued. I told her they did. I told her I was handling it. She asked if anyone was trying to contact staff. I said I did not know. She said they would keep the information restriction in place. I realized then that my family's pressure did not stop at me. They would try to go around me if they could. That was not love. That was control dressed up as concern. Before bed, I made a short list in my notebook. It was not a revenge list. It was a reality list. I wrote that I had paid for many temporary costs that became permanent. I wrote that my sister spoke for me in public chats. I wrote that my nephew used threats when he did not get what he wanted. I wrote that my recovery time was treated like an inconvenience to their plans. Then I wrote one more line, simple and calm. I wrote that respect is shown in how people treat your boundaries. When I looked at that line, I understood something I had avoided for a long time. My family did not see my boundaries as real. They saw them as delays to push through. I turned off the light and listened to the quiet of the clinic. Outside, the winter wind moved through the trees. Inside, the building stayed steady and warm. And in that calm, I accepted the truth. This was not just about a party. This was about a family that had grown comfortable with using me. The day after the call, I tried to focus on the clinic routine again. I did my short walk after breakfast. I sat with the therapist and practiced slowing my thoughts down. I drank water and kept my phone away for long stretches. But my family did not slow down. By late morning, my blocked list grew. Tyler tried new numbers. A few were obvious. One was not. Each time, the pattern was the same. A missed call, then a message that tried to pull me back into the same role. It was never a real check-in. It was always pressure, wrapped in family words. I did not respond. I saved what mattered and stayed quiet. In the afternoon, my phone buzzed with a message from my Aunt Renee. I opened it this time because I wanted to see how the story was changing. She said people were confused. She said Marla was upset. She said Tyler felt hurt. She said the family was disappointed in how I was acting. She also said something else. She said the party was still happening and that it would be sad if I chose not to support it. She suggested I should do the right thing and not embarrass Marla in front of everyone. I read it twice. Then I placed the phone on the table and stared at the wall for a full minute. I could feel my heart rate increase, not from fear, but from the weight of the manipulation. They were not asking. They were training me to obey. I walked to the small sink in my room and washed my hands slowly, like a reset. Then I sat down and wrote a few lines in my notebook. I wrote that Renee was trying to make me responsible for Marla's image. I wrote that Marla was using Tyler's feelings as a shield. I wrote that Tyler was using threats and group pressure. I wrote that none of them were asking what I needed. That evening, Nina, the case manager, checked on me again. She asked how my stress level was. I told her I was managing it, but I also told her my family was still pushing. I asked her if anyone had contacted the clinic. She said there had been calls. She said a woman claimed to be my sister and asked questions about my discharge date and my care plan. Nina said the staff did not share anything because the note was already in my file. She said the caller sounded frustrated. Hearing that made my stomach tighten. Marla was not only calling me, she was trying to go around me. I told Nina I wanted the restriction to stay firm. I told her I did not want any updates shared with anyone unless I gave direct approval. Nina said she understood. She said I had the right to privacy, even from family. She also said something that stuck with me. She said people who respect you do not try to bypass you. That night I slept better than I expected. The boundaries felt new, but they also felt correct. The clinic was quiet. No one knocked on my door. No one demanded anything. That contrast showed me how tense my normal life had become. On the third day after Tyler's call, I got a phone call from my neighbor, Mr. Klein. He is older than me. He is the kind of man who watches his street like it is his job. He does not gossip for fun. When he calls, it is because something is real. He said he was not trying to interfere, but he thought I should know what he was seeing. He said there were more cars than usual at the duplex. He said he saw Tyler and a few friends carrying boxes inside. He said the music was loud one evening and went late. He said it did not look like a normal family visit. I did not react on the call. I thanked him and asked for simple details. I asked for dates and times. I asked if he saw any moving trucks or only cars. I asked if any windows were open or if anything looked damaged. He said he did not see damage, but he saw a lot of activity. When the call ended, I sat down and looked at my hands. They were steady, my breathing was steady. But in my mind, a line was crossed. The duplex was mine. I did not talk about it much because I did not like family drama around property. Years ago, I bought it as a safe investment. I lived in one unit and rented the other. Later, when I moved to a smaller place, I kept the duplex as a source of stable income. Over time, families started treating it like shared space. They asked for storage. They asked for short stays. Marla once called it a family fallback. I never corrected her in public. I thought it kept peace. Now, while I was away and recovering, they were acting like I was not part of the decision anymore. I opened my calendar again. I checked my discharge date. I counted days. I circled it in red inside the app and created more reminders. One for the bank, one for a home check, one for a talk with a professional. I used plain words. No emotion, no drama. After that, I opened my laptop for the first time in days. I did not search the group chat. I did not respond to messages. I did not write a long explanation to anyone. I created a folder on my desktop. I named it by month and year. Inside, I created subfolders labeled calls, messages, property, and banking. I did not put any official papers in there yet. I simply created structure. Then I opened a document and started a timeline. I wrote down Tyler's call date and the time. I wrote down Marla's follow-up calls. I wrote down Renee's message. I wrote down Mr. Klein's report of cars and boxes. I wrote down the clinic note about Marla calling staff. I was not building a story for the family. I was building facts for myself. Facts do not change based on who is loud. The next morning, I received another message from a cousin. She said Tyler was posting online about the party. She said he was acting like it was a big win and that the family was united. She did not send the post, but she warned me that people were talking. I did not look it up. I did not want to feed it. But I wrote down what she told me and asked her to keep her distance from the drama. I thanked her for the warning. That afternoon, Marla called my phone again. I did not answer. She left a message. I listened to it later with the volume low. She said I was causing pain. She said Tyler was embarrassed. She said people were asking questions. She said I needed to stop being stubborn. She said I owed the family an explanation. She also said she had a right to manage things because I was not well. That last part was important. She was trying to place herself above me as if my recovery meant my authority was gone. I did not call her back. Instead, I spoke with Nina again and asked what the clinic could do if family kept calling. Nina said they could keep refusing to share information and note every attempt. She said I could also choose not to accept calls during certain hours. She said I should treat recovery like protected space. That evening, I sat in the lounge and watched the hallway. I noticed a small detail. People who had supportive visitors looked calmer after the visits. People who had controlling visitors looked drained. I realized I had been drained for years, not by one event, but by constant pressure. The next day, I made one phone call that mattered. I called Grant Vela. Grant is an attorney and an old family friend. He is not a loud man. He speaks in short lines. When he says a thing, he means it. I had avoided calling him for family issues because I did not want to make it official. I can see now that my family counted on that fear. Grant answered, and I told him I needed advice, not drama. I said I was in a clinic recovering, and my family was pushing hard for money and access. I said my sister tried to get information from the clinic. I said my nephew demanded card details and reacted with threats when I refused. Grant did not sound surprised. He said I needed to protect my privacy, my accounts, and my property. He said I needed to document every contact and keep it organized. He said I should not debate the family in group chats. He said pressure is not a legal right. I asked him what my next steps should be, in simple terms. He said I should review who has access to my accounts and what automatic payments exist. He said I should review property rules and keys. He said I should stop allowing vague family use language and start using clear terms. I told him I wanted to handle things properly and calmly. He said calm is good, but calm needs structure. He said systems exist for a reason. He said if people only respect you when you pay, then you need to put respect into the process. After the call, I did not feel excited. I felt focused. That night, my phone buzzed with a notification preview from my bank app. It was not a full message, just a line in the notification bar. I did not open it right away. I sat still and looked at the screen, letting my mind stay steady. In that moment, the last piece clicked into place. This was not only about a party, it was also about access. And if they were trying to reach into my life while I was away, then my job was not to argue. My job was to close the doors the right way. The next day, the clinic doctor cleared me for short outings. Nothing long, nothing stressful, just small steps back into normal life, with limits. I chose my first outing carefully. I did not go to see family. I did not go to the duplex. I did not go to prove anything to anyone. I went to the bank. Money problems are not solved by arguments. They are solved by access rules and records. If my family had learned to treat my accounts like shared space, then I needed to close that space quietly and correctly. I arrived at the local branch in the late morning. The building was bright and quiet. The line was short. I sat in a chair near the window and waited, watching people come and go with their slips of paper and calm faces. Most people there were handling simple tasks. That normal feeling helped me. It reminded me that financial systems exist for a reason. They do not run on family pressure. They run on verification. When it was my turn, a receptionist asked what I needed. I said I wanted a review of my account access and recent activity. I said I also wanted to confirm what changes could be made by phone and what required my presence. I did not mention my family. I kept it neutral. The receptionist nodded and asked me to wait again. A few minutes later, a manager came out to greet me. Her name was Celeste Nguyen. She spoke in a professional way, clear and steady. She led me into a small office with a desk and 2 chairs. She asked how she could help. I told her I was recovering and had been away from my usual routines. I told her I needed to make sure my accounts were protected. I said I wanted to confirm who had any authorized access, what cards were connected, and what automatic payments existed. I asked for a simple list and a time-stamped activity history. Celeste did not treat it like a strange request. She treated it like normal risk management. She asked for identification. She asked security questions. Then she turned her screen slightly away, typed for a while, and spoke as she worked. She said my account showed normal use in most areas. Then she paused and asked if I had requested any changes recently. I told her I had not. She said there were notes showing inquiries about access and limits. She did not accuse anyone. She just stated the fact the way a professional does. That was enough for me. I asked what those inquiries looked like on their side. I asked what information would be logged. I asked what could be provided later as a record. I kept my voice calm and my questions simple. Celeste said the bank logs contacts and attempted changes, even if the changes do not go through. She said they can document what was asked, when it was asked, and what verification failed. She said if I needed formal records later, there were procedures for that. I told her I wanted those records requested and prepared. I also asked for immediate protective steps. I asked her to confirm that no one could add themselves as an authorized user without my in-person approval. I asked to tighten phone verification settings and add alerts for any account changes. I asked about limiting card use and replacing cards if needed. Celeste explained my options. She did not push me toward drama. She focused on control and prevention. She said I could add extra authentication, update contact methods, and request new cards. She said I could also set a note that staff should not discuss my accounts with anyone except me, even if someone claimed to be family. I told her I wanted that note added. As she typed, I watched her face. She stayed neutral, but I could tell she understood what kind of situation this was. She did not ask for a story. She did not need one. The request itself said enough. Before I left, I asked for printed summaries of my automatic payments and linked services. Celeste said she could prepare them. She placed the pages in an envelope and handed them to me without making a point of it. I did not open them in the branch. I just thanked her and put them into my bag. Walking back outside, I felt a small shift in my chest. The pressure I had felt from the bank notification was now contained inside a process. It had edges, it had rules, that mattered. From the bank, I went to a small cafe near the clinic. It was not crowded. I sat at a table in the corner and ordered tea. I placed my bag on the chair next to me and kept my phone face down. I did not scroll. I did not read family messages. I wrote. In my notebook, I listed what I had done at the bank in short lines. Account review requested, access protections tightened, alerts activated, records requested, staff note added. I also wrote the time and date. Then I wrote one more line for myself. I wrote that I was not punishing anyone. I was protecting myself. After my tea, I took a rideshare to a storage facility on the edge of town. I had used a unit there years ago during a move. It was clean, bright, and monitored. I chose it because it was neutral space. Nobody in my family had a reason to be there, and nobody could claim it was shared. At the front desk, I rented a small unit. The employee asked standard questions and gave standard paperwork. I signed and received a key code. Again, no drama, just process. I returned to the clinic for the afternoon session and rested. Then, the next morning, I did another short outing. This time, I went to my apartment first. I kept my visit quick. I packed a box with items that mattered, spare keys, a folder with personal records, and a few small valuables that had sentimental value. Nothing dramatic, nothing heavy, just the items that would cause trouble if they went missing. As I carried the box to my car, I noticed my hands were steady. I had expected myself to feel tense. Instead, I felt organized. When you accept a pattern, you stop hoping it will fix itself. You start acting like a person who understands risk. I drove straight to the storage facility and placed the box in the unit. I stacked it neatly and took a photo of the unit's contents for my own reference. Then I locked the door and walked away. That afternoon, my phone lit up again with family activity. I did not open most of it, but I could see preview lines. Renee was asking why I was being distant. Marla was saying I was overreacting. Tyler was sending messages from different numbers, each one trying a new angle. One message was softer than the rest. Tyler said he wanted to talk. He said he did not mean to upset me. He also said the party was still going forward, and it would mean a lot if I could help make it work. I stared at that preview line for a few seconds. It was the same pattern in a quieter voice. Apology first, request second, pressure last. I did not respond. I saved the message and wrote down the number. Later that day, Nina told me the clinic received another call. The caller asked again about my discharge date. Nina said staff repeated the privacy rule and ended the call quickly. She said the caller sounded angry. I thanked her. I did not ask her to guess who it was. I did not need a name. I needed the behavior on record. In the evening, I met Grant Vela in his office lobby. I did not go inside for a long meeting. The clinic recommended I limit stress. Grant understood that. He met me in the front area where it was quiet and simple. Grant asked how I was doing. I told him I was stable and focused. I told him I went to the bank and tightened access. I told him family members were calling the clinic to get information. I told him my neighbor saw activity at the duplex. Grant listened without interrupting. Then he said I needed to think in 2 tracks. One track was financial protection. The other track was property protection. He said both are easier when you act before a public conflict happens. I asked him what property protection looks like without turning my life into a fight. He said it looks like clear rules, documented notices, and controlled keys. He said it looks like written boundaries that do not depend on someone's mood. He said if anyone was entering my property without permission, I should not debate it in a family chat. I should address it through the proper channels. I told Grant I was not looking for a public argument. I said I wanted to stop the entitlement cycle and keep it lawful. He said lawful does not mean passive. He said lawful means clean, documented, and hard to twist. Before I left, Grant told me to keep organizing everything by date. He said dates remove emotion from the story. He said if people try to rewrite events, a timeline keeps the truth steady. After that meeting, I drove to the post office. I stood in line with other people holding packages and envelopes. When it was my turn, I asked for certified mail options. I bought envelopes and the tracking slips. I filled out the addresses carefully. I did not put dramatic wording on the outside. I kept it plain. I mailed several letters that day. I will not describe the contents here, because the point was not to make a scene. The point was to create a record that could not be denied later. When I left the post office, the air felt colder. The sun was low. I sat in my car for a minute and looked at my hands on the steering wheel. I thought about how my family would react if they knew what I had just done. They would say I was being harsh. They would say I was taking things too far. They would say I was trying to control them. But they had been controlling me for years. They just called it family. Back at the clinic, I returned to my room and opened my laptop. I placed the bank envelope on the desk without opening it. I placed the post office receipt beside it. Then I took a slow breath and created a new folder on my computer. I named it Notices. I added the dates and tracking numbers into my timeline document. I also added short notes about each step: bank visit, storage unit, attorney lobby, certified mail. Then I closed the laptop and turned off the light. That night, I did not feel revenge. I felt readiness. My family still believed they could pressure me back into place. They believed my silence meant weakness. They believed I would come home and apologize just to make the noise stop. What they did not understand was that I was not preparing to argue with them. I was preparing to stop the whole pattern, using the systems they could not shout at. I was discharged 12 days after Tyler's call. The clinic did not make it dramatic. It was a quiet desk, a short meeting, and a checklist. Nina asked if I felt stable. I told her I did. She asked if I had a plan for low stress at home. I told her I did, and I meant it. I left with a small stack of clinic papers in a plain envelope. I put it in my bag and did not tell anyone in my family I was leaving. I did not post anything. I did not answer the group chat. I did not need their permission to go home. In the car, I sat for a moment before turning the key. I looked at my phone and saw missed calls and messages. I did not open them. I turned off most notifications. I kept only the ones I needed for basic alerts. Then I drove. I did not go straight to my apartment. I went to the duplex first. I parked a short distance away, on the street where I could see the front but not stand out. I stayed in the car and watched. The building looked the same from a distance, but small details were different. There were more cars than there should be for a normal weekday. A few were parked in ways that blocked the driveway. I saw decorations near the porch, like someone was setting up for a celebration. I saw a stack of empty boxes near the side gate. Then I saw Tyler. He walked out carrying something long and wrapped. 2 friends followed him. They looked relaxed. They walked like this was their place. Tyler pointed toward the front door as if he was in charge. I kept my face calm. I did not step out. I did not wave. I did not call out. I was not there to start a scene in the street. I took a slow breath and focused on what I could measure: cars, time, movement, who came and went. I checked the clock and wrote a few lines in my notebook. Then I drove away. I went to my apartment next. I entered quietly and went straight to my home office. I did not sit down to rest. I did not want comfort yet. I wanted structure first. On the desk, I laid out the items I had been organizing since the clinic: my notebook, my phone, a small USB drive, a few envelopes. I also had the bank envelope I still had not opened in public. Everything was plain. No labels that would cause questions if someone glanced at it. I opened my laptop and checked my timeline document. I read it from top to bottom: Tyler's demand, the threat, Marla's calls, Renee's message, the clinic staff calls, Mr. Klein's observations, the bank visit, the storage unit, the certified mail tracking numbers. Reading it like a list did something important. It kept me from slipping back into doubt. The timeline was not a story, it was a sequence of actions. I made a second copy of the timeline. I saved it in another folder and placed a copy on the USB drive. I also saved screenshots of the group chat mentions where my name was used like a promise. I did not comment on them. I only stored them in the right place. Then I opened the bank envelope in my office. I scanned the pages quickly. I did not sit and stare at them. I only confirmed what I needed and noted the parts that matched the alerts and the timing. I placed the pages back into the envelope and put it into my bag. After that, I checked my apartment for anything that could be used against me. I did not mean something dramatic. I meant simple things. Loose keys, old paperwork left on counters. Anything that could disappear and later become a question. I placed spare keys into a small locked box. I placed personal records into the storage unit box list. I set my apartment to a basic, clean state. Nothing on the table, nothing left out. Around midday, I went out again. I did not go to see family. I went to a hardware store. I told myself it was for supplies, but I also knew it was a good place to hear what people say when they think you are not nearby. The parking lot was busy. People were loading bags of soil and boxes of tools. I walked in, bought a few small items I actually needed, and returned to my car. As I stepped out of the store, I heard a familiar voice. It was Renee. She was near the entrance with another woman I did not recognize. She was speaking in a confident, cheerful tone. Renee was telling the woman that the family was finally doing something big. She said it was a welcome home type of night, and Tyler was making it happen. She said everyone would be there. She also said something that made my jaw tighten. She said I would come around once I was back and rested. She said I was just being difficult because I like control. She said I always act serious, but deep down I like being needed. I did not interrupt. I did not correct her. I got into my car, closed the door, and sat still. That was the story they were telling. Not that they pressured me, not that they tried to bypass me, not that Tyler made threats. Their story was that I was emotional and stubborn, and they were patient and united. It confirmed something I already knew. If I tried to explain myself in their space, they would bend every word into their script. I could not fix a scripted story with more talking. I drove to a quiet street near a small cafe and parked. I took out my phone and called Grant Vela. Grant answered in his usual calm way. I told him I was discharged. I told him I was stable and thinking clearly. I told him I drove by the duplex and saw activity. I told him Renee was speaking like the party was a done deal and like my money was already part of it. Grant asked if I had confronted anyone. I told him I had not. I told him I did not want a shouting match on a sidewalk. I told him I wanted to handle things properly, through the systems they respect. Grant said that was the right mindset. He said public pressure is used to force quick decisions. He said I should not give them quick decisions. He said I should stick to process and timing. I told him the community center event was still scheduled, and it sounded like they planned to make it a big family night. I told him I suspected they wanted to trap me into paying in front of everyone, or into looking like the bad one if I refused. Grant said that was likely. He said I should be prepared for them to make comments, ask questions in front of guests, and try to force agreement with eyes on me. He said I should stay calm and keep my words short. He said if I planned to act, I should act in a way that does not depend on emotion. I told him I understood. I told him I was ready. After the call, I sat in the car and watched people walk by with shopping bags. Nobody knew what my family was doing. Nobody cared. That also helped. It reminded me that family drama feels huge only when you stay inside it. I went back to my apartment and checked the time. The community center event was scheduled for early evening. That gave me hours. I used them well. I ate a simple meal. I took a short walk. I kept my breathing steady. Then I showered and dressed in plain clothes. No suit, no statement, just clean and neutral. I packed my bag carefully. I placed the envelope with bank pages inside. I placed the USB drive in a side pocket. I placed my notebook on top. I also carried a small folder with clean dividers. Nothing about it looked dramatic. It looked like routine work. Before leaving, I looked at my phone again. The family group chat was active. I could see preview lines. Renee was telling people to arrive early. Marla was reminding everyone to bring energy. Tyler was sending short messages that sounded like commands. One line stood out. Tyler wrote that this night would prove who really cared about the family. I did not respond. I did not react. I turned the phone face down and left. The drive to the community center was smooth. The roads were cold and dry. The sky was gray, and the streetlights were already on. I parked a short distance away first and watched. Cars filled the lot. People were walking in groups toward the entrance. Some carried trays of food. Some carried gift bags. I saw balloons near the doors. I heard music through the walls when the entrance opened. I sat in my car and took a slow breath. I checked my posture. I checked my hands. They were steady. My chest was calm. I watched Tyler for a moment. He was near the entrance, greeting people like a host. He moved with confidence. He laughed loudly. He looked like he expected to win before anything even happened. I also noticed phones. Many guests had them out. Some were recording short clips, the way people do at gatherings now. That detail mattered. Tyler thought public attention would pressure me. He did not understand that public attention also creates witnesses. I waited until most people were inside. I did not want to arrive early and get cornered in the parking lot. I wanted the room full. I wanted every choice to be seen clearly. When the flow of guests slowed, I picked up my bag, opened the car door, and stepped out. The cold air hit my face. I adjusted the strap on my shoulder and walked toward the entrance with a steady pace. I did not rush. I did not hesitate. I walked like I belonged there. Because I did. At the doors, I paused for half a second, not to fear it, but to mark the moment. Then I pushed the door open and went inside. I stepped into the community center and felt the warm air and the smell of food at once. The hall was bright, with strings of lights and balloons near the stage. Music played from speakers in the corners. People stood in clusters, talking and laughing. Most of them looked relaxed, like this was a normal family night. Tyler was near the front, moving from group to group like he owned the room. He had a microphone in his hand, and a small table behind him held envelopes, a speaker, and a sign-in sheet. Marla stood close by, smiling wide and touching people's arms as she greeted them. Renee moved through the crowd with a clipboard, acting like a manager. When Tyler noticed me, his face changed for a second. Then he smiled as if nothing was wrong. He walked toward me and spoke fast, like we were already in agreement. He said he was glad I came. He said this night was about family and unity. He said we should not bring problems into it. I told him I was not here to argue. I said I came because my name was being used, and I wanted to correct that in a proper way. Tyler's smile tightened. He glanced around at the guests and seemed to decide he could control the moment. He guided me toward a group of relatives and spoke louder so others could hear. He said everyone had been worried about me. He said it would mean a lot if I showed support. Marla stepped in right away. She said I looked better. She said she knew I would not let the family down. She said people needed good news. She said the night should be positive. I nodded once. I did not correct her in that small circle. I let them speak. I watched how they framed it. They were building a story in real time, trying to lock the room into one version before I could say anything. Then Tyler tapped the microphone and asked everyone to listen. The speaker made a sharp sound, and the room quieted. He walked up to the stage like he had practiced it. He started with a cheerful speech. He said the family had been through stress. He said tonight was about coming together. He said some people forget what family means, and this night would remind them. He said he was proud to organize it. Then he looked directly at me and spoke as if he was doing me a favor. He said I had been distant. He said I was letting stress make me cold. He said I needed to remember who supported me. He said real family shows up when it matters. I could feel eyes on me. A few people lifted phones a little higher, like they expected a scene. Tyler seemed pleased with that. He wanted pressure. He wanted me to react. I walked forward slowly, not rushing and not hesitating. I raised my hand slightly, not as a challenge, but as a request to speak. Tyler frowned, but he handed me the microphone. He did it with a look that said he expected me to apologize. I faced the room. My voice was calm and low. I told everyone I would keep it simple and factual. I said I was not there to insult anyone. I said I was there to correct false claims about my money, my property, and my recovery. A quiet spread through the hall. People leaned in a little. Renee stopped moving. Marla's smile froze. I said Tyler contacted me while I was still in a private clinic and demanded my credit card details for this party. I said I refused. I said he reacted with threats and told me I was not family if I did not pay. I said I blocked him after repeated calls. Tyler stepped forward and tried to interrupt. He said it was not like that. He said I was twisting it. He said he was emotional and I should not punish him. I did not argue with his feelings. I told him he could speak later, but I was speaking now. I said if he wanted to correct facts, he could do it with records, not with volume. Then I set my bag on a chair near the stage and opened it. I pulled out a plain folder and placed it on the table beside the microphone stand. I made sure my hands stayed steady. I did not rush through it. I did not wave papers around. I treated it like work. I told the room that when someone demands money and uses pressure, the correct response is to secure access and document behavior. I said, that is what I did. I held up the first set of pages and explained what they were. I said they were bank account access notes and activity summaries. I said they showed attempted inquiries and attempted changes made while I was in the clinic. I said they also showed the dates and times of those attempts. Marla's eyes widened. She shook her head and tried to smile like it was a misunderstanding. She said nobody did anything wrong. She said she was only trying to help because I was not well. I told her that help does not include trying to bypass me. I said the bank does not treat family claims as permission. I said that is why the changes did not go through. I said that is also why the attempts were logged. Celeste Nguyen stood up from a table near the side wall. Most people did not know who she was. She raised her hand slightly and waited until I nodded. She said she was the branch manager. She said she was there because I asked her to be. She said she could confirm that there were inquiries and attempted actions on my accounts without my approval. She said she could also confirm that protections were added afterward. A few guests made small sounds of surprise. Someone whispered near the back. Phones lifted higher. Tyler's face went pale, then red. Tyler said this was private business. He said I was trying to embarrass him. He said I should have handled it quietly. I told him I did handle it quietly. I said he made it public when he used my name in the family chat and planned a party on my wallet. I said I did not choose the public stage. He did. Then I moved to the next packet. I said the second set of papers related to property. I said the duplex was not a shared family space. I said it was my property. I said access to it depends on permission, not on family titles. I explained that while I was in the clinic, a neighbor reported unusual activity at the duplex. I said people were bringing boxes in and out. I said there were cars at hours that did not match a normal visit. I said I did not accuse anyone in the street. I said I recorded dates and asked for proper advice. I then held up the next page and pointed to the section without reading it word for word. I said it was a written notice with clear boundaries. I said it included a list of who was authorized to enter and who was not. I said it also included a deadline for anyone staying there without permission to leave and return keys. Renee stepped forward with her clipboard like she wanted to take control. She said I was being extreme. She said family does not handle things like landlords. She said I was turning love into paperwork. I looked at her and kept my voice steady. I said, love does not require access to my accounts and my property. I said if family wants to be treated like family, they should act like family, not like a committee managing my life. Marla tried again, softer this time. She said she only wanted the family together. She said I was making it hard. She said I should think about how this would look. I told her I had thought about it. I said the family used image to pressure me for years, and it ended tonight. I said I would not buy peace with my wallet. Then I opened the last section of my folder. I told the room that when people treat you like a resource, you have to remove their ability to make decisions over your resources. I said I had done that as well. I explained that I had updated my financial directives so that Tyler and Marla could not claim any role in my affairs if I was unwell again. I said I also removed them from any future control over support I had previously provided. I said any help going forward, if any, would be decided by me alone, in writing, and only with respect. Tyler stepped closer, voice raised. He said I could not do that. He said I was being spiteful. He said I was trying to cut him off to teach him a lesson. I told him it was not a lesson. I told him it was a boundary. I said he had already chosen his position when he threatened to erase me from the family over card numbers. Grant Vela stood from a chair near the side, calm and quiet. I nodded to him and said he was my attorney. Grant did not give a speech. He only confirmed that the notices and directives were valid and properly executed. He said the timelines were documented. He said further contact that tried to bypass my decisions would be treated as harassment through formal channels. The word harassment made Marla flinch. She looked around at the guests like she wanted someone to save her from the moment. But nobody moved. People were watching the facts settle in. I turned back to the room and spoke one last time. I said the party could continue if people wanted. I said I was not stopping anyone from eating food or talking. I said I was only ending the lie that my money belonged to the group. I then addressed Tyler directly. I said the cards were replaced. I said access was tightened. I said any charges that were attempted or any costs that were pushed onto my accounts would be disputed through proper processes. I said anyone holding keys to my property without permission had a deadline to return them. I said if keys were not returned, locks would be changed and access would be treated as unauthorized entry. Tyler stared at me like he could not understand a world where his pressure did not work. Marla's mouth opened, then closed. Renee looked down at her clipboard as if it suddenly had nothing to say. I placed the microphone back on the stand and closed my folder. I did not wait for applause. I did not wait for an apology. I picked up my bag and turned to leave. As I walked toward the doors, I heard the room fill with low, confused talking. The music had been turned down, and nobody turned it back up. A few guests stepped aside to let me pass, eyes wide and quiet. Someone near the front whispered that they had no idea this was happening. At the exit, I paused just long enough to look back. Tyler was still near the stage, but he did not look like a host anymore. He looked like someone who lost control of the room. Marla stood beside him, hands tight at her sides. Renee was speaking fast to a few relatives, but they were not nodding the way they usually did. I pushed the door open, stepped into the cold air, and let it hit my face. Behind me, inside that hall, the family story they built for years had cracked in one clean moment. Not from shouting, but from records, rules, and consequences.